Hello again, everybody. It's Mr. Scott, your favorite middle-aged metalhead, back again today with another episode of the series where we celebrate metal albums that turn 40 years old in the year 2024, essentially metal albums that become middle-aged. And I am not alone today, folks. I am joined here today by a master, a horror master, if you will. He's my man, Ricky, down there in Texas. Good to have you, my friend.
How are you, Scott? It's been a while since we collaborated in a long time.
Yeah, we talked about doing this a while ago, and we finally got the opportunity. This is the last episode of this year of this series that I'm doing, and I'm thinking going into the next year, this is possibly going to become a regular thing. It's going to be me and you, or me and Levi, or whoever wants to stop in here and talk about this stuff. So there's only so much I can do myself, and give my opinion about these albums. All these episodes are on a playlist here on my channel, Metal 40 Plus. I've looked at Power Slave from Iron Maiden, Ride the Lightning from Metallica, just Defenders of the Faith from Judas Priest. You name it, it's on there, so check those out, please. But today, as if you couldn't tell over there, we are checking out a seminal album in the world of extreme music. It's Bathory's debut album. Turns 40 years old this year, people. 40 years old. Jeez. So, what Ricky and I are going to do is we're going to talk about the album, we're going to talk about the songs in the album, and we're going to enjoy one of the tracks together, a simple track called Hades. So, and we'll talk about the band too. We'll talk about Quorthon and the influence of Bathory on the black metal genre. So, let's get into the music first of all. Sit back and enjoy a little bit of Hades. Thrill us. It's a love song. Straight up, it's a love song.
Yeah,
How could you not fall in love to this track?
I mean, it's an essential song talking about the Lord of the Underworld, Hades.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So let's talk a little bit about the backstory of this album. Yes, this is the debut album from the band Bathory, and it was recorded in June of 1984, released in October of 1984, the Heaven Shore Studios in Stockholm, Sweden. And there you see the album right there that Ricky is holding. An infamous front cover with the symbol of Baphomet there on the cover there too. It was the Black Mark Typhon label. And the length of the entire album is not even a half hour long, but it doesn't matter because the influence on those 26 minutes has perpetuated so much music throughout the entire world.
Yeah, so like you said, not even close to 20 minutes. And the thing about the Bastard debuts that, if you're a black metal elitist, and that's the proper way I can say this, you gotta have the first Bastard album in your collection. And I guess at less than 20 minutes, highly influential. You have, this was in 84. This was when the album was kind of dying down. Extreme metal was begin to sort of rise with releases like, well, even though they weren't really as heavy as they were, used to be, like Slayer, Show No Mercy, Metallica, Kill 'Em All, the big four of American thrash. And then, of course, you had Number of the Beast, which came out 2 years earlier, and I'm giving that satanic kind of thing. But then again, there was another band that Quorthon has ignored or doesn't even recognize he was highly influenced on. Venom,
Mm-hmm.
the godfather of black metal.
Yeah. And I think it's the people that say that Quorthon did not listen to Venom. Come on. Just Come on, okay? It's obvious he did. Three
I
bands
mean,
you can say that were that were a foundation for Bathory. You have to say are Black Sabbath, Motorhead, and Venom. End of story.
yeah, with a touch of punk.
Sure, yeah, and that comes, I think, from the Motorhead kind of influence. There was Sex
Yeah.
Pistols influence in there too. That late '70s, early '80s punk rock scene coming out of England, but it's undeniable that Venom had an influence on Quorthon in this genre overall. So I mean, I've said from day one that this album is a Motorhead album with Venom production, and that becomes the
Hmm.
beginning of what Quorthon Ace would go on to do. And his name was Thomas, of course, but we just know him as Quorthon in the metal world, and that's how we
Yeah.
refer to him.
Yep. And the fact that except for only one album, the entire discography of Bathory has never been in a proper studio, except only for the return.
Mm.
So the rawness of the album was an intentional one. Then again, this was an A the production where at this time began to become more produced and clean with bands like Def Leppard, Europe, and all like that. But you listen to something like this, you're like, what the hell is this? Why is this so raw and evil?
Mm. So let's get back into the song. Hell, enjoy a little bit more Hades. On the next break, we're going to talk about the songs on the album. We'll pause there before we get into the epic finale of this song. Simplistic,
Hmm.
so easy, so brutal, and so fast and heavy, and doesn't have to have 10,000 notes crammed into a measure to be influential. It just is so simplistic. It's so straightforward, raw, unadulterated metal, and that's what we love about. That's what I love specifically about this time frame, about this whole era of that kind of music.
Yeah, I mean it was simple time and the influence that this album has had on not just black metal, but like in extreme metal, even to not even extreme metal, in metal in general. But all the songs in this album are killer tracks. There's not a bad song in this album
No, there's not.
whatsoever.
And there are 10 tracks on the album, but really there's only 8.
Eight, yeah.
Yeah, there really is 8. I mean, the opening is an intro, and it's called Storm of Damnation. It's 3 minutes of noise and, all kind. It's setting the mood. That's the Black Sabbath influence. When you've listened to the opening track from the debut Black Sabbath album, it's that wind and rain and thunder and everything
Yeah,
else before the riff comes in. Same thing here. Then we go into this song, Hades.
yeah.
Then we go into Reaper, Necromancy, Sacrifice, In Conspiracy with Satan, Armageddon, Raise the Dead, War. And then an outro that's 22 seconds, which we don't count. But no, the shortest song is 2 minutes and 15 seconds. That's War. And the longest
Mhm.
track is 3 minutes and 40 seconds. That's Necromancy. So, I mean, that's it. What are some standout tracks to you on
Yeah.
this album?
In Hades for one is probably my favorite track of the album. Reaper, Necromancy. The thing about Sacrifice is that sometimes I prefer the Scandinavian recording of the song before it came into the debut, which is more no esque. But it's still pretty good. I mean, all of the songs are fucking amazing. I cannot tell you. how many times I've listened to this album and Bathory in general, and oh man, it's just so fucking good. And it's a shame that Quorthon died so young, not even
Hmm.
close to 40 years old.
Yeah, we'll get into that when we finish the song and talk a little bit more about the band itself and
Mhm.
in context of the time and the influence. But this song Hades, it's it's the consistency of this album. That's the sound you get on this song that we're listening to together, and you're checking out there. That's pretty much what you get throughout the entire album. It's nothing flashy about it. It's not going to be like, well, we're going to use an augmented ninth chord here, and we're going to throw this and do all that stuff. No, it's like just get in there and start playing. That it doesn't matter, as raw as you can get. So let's finish up Hades, and then we'll talk about the Bathory's influence into the world. In and out. In and out. Done.
I wonder if that's how hell sounds like when you enter hell.
It's quite possible. Who knows? So I'll stop sharing that screen here. And
Mhm.
yeah, as Ricky alluded to, Quorthon, the man behind Bathory, is not with us anymore. He passed away. It was not that long ago. Um,
2003. 2003? Yeah,
let's
2003,
see.
because that's
Yep.
when, let's see, Norland 1 and 2 came out in 2002, 2003, so roughly around that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 2004, June 3rd, 2004, age 38 years old. There
Not
was,
even 40 years old.
there was rumors for years that Quorthon Thomas born Fjorsberg, with my bad pronunciation there. Quorthon was the name he took on as his identity in the underground of black metal. Bathory became this mystery. It became this like, what the hell is this? And the story behind the creation of Bathory was on a whim. It was not planned. It was one of those things where there was going to be a band on a compilation album. That band backed out, and the person running it knew Quorthon and said, I need a song. And he just grabbed a couple of musicians, banged out a couple of songs, put it on there, boom. And that was the band people were asking about. They wanted to know more about. And it started from there. He was 17 years old
Mhm.
when he started this band. What have you done with yourself at 17, people out there? Because I wasn't doing this. So it's like, okay, no pressure, dude. You just helped create this whole new, vibe of extreme metal. So do something with it, But and Quorthon
Yeah.
really at the beginning, he didn't really consider himself black metal. He was a
He
rocker. He
was,
was a metalhead. He was into thrash and stuff like that.
I mean, Quorthon was bit of a black metal hipster because during the 90s, he came to America on a promotional tour, but he told his fucking promoter not to tell anybody he was coming to the States because he wanted to walk around and not be like bothered by people, which I'm like, what's the purpose of the promotional tour? To promote your upcoming album and interact with fans. Even though some fans knew you were right into the underground, knew who Corson was, to the common people, he's just some guy with a battle vest wearing a basket shirt.
Mm-hmm. And that's probably it. That speaks a lot to his personality. He did this for the music. He didn't do it to become a rock star, And you hear the stories about the Norwegian black metal bands and the drama that happened there with Euronymous and
Yeah.
Varg and all those people. There's an ego there. There's a postulating, building themselves up to be. They're working a gimmick, okay, and they're trying to live the gimmick. Quorthon's not trying to do that. He's just like, I want to make music. I don't want to be, out there being some kind of superstar. I just want to do this thing. And hey, if your record company's going to say, we're going to send you to America for a promotional tour, are you going to say no? It's like, here's the money, dude. Go to America. Okay, thank you. And just walk around and do nothing. Hey.
Yeah. And the fact that Bathory, for the majority of its career, was Quorthon doing everything. The majority of the time. Of course, one of the most notable members, of course, Jonas Ackerland, now the famous movie and film director. But back in the day, his name was Von McBurger.
I
Of all
forgot
names.
about that. Does that tell you, people, that it was just to have fun? It was tongue in cheek. It was not to be taken like that serious. There's this false
Yeah.
romanticism that fans have had about black metal and black metal musicians, thinking that they're all so serious and evil and satanic and all this stuff. When a lot of the times they're just playing, they're being like, oh, you're buying that I'm this evil entity, dude. Okay, I'm just gonna play that. And then the back they're drinking, bros. Like, do you believe that son of a bitch thinks I'm like this? No. So, yeah,
Even the guys in Venom, even though they sang about Satan and hell, they were like just fucking goofing around.
yeah. They have a good time with doing what they're doing. There's a lot of goofiness going on. There's their typical, goofy English humor. So if you go back and watch those old interviews with Venom back at that time, they're just messing around, They're just being goofballs. That's what they are. That's who they are. They just want to have fun and play music. Who doesn't want to do that? But
Hmm.
let's not, we're having fun poking at the fandom of these things, but let's not ignore what this man did, what Thomas, what Quorthon, what Ace did with that music. He created this whole wave of influence on people that caused the second wave of black metal to come out in the 90s with Emperor, Mayhem, Burzum, all that stuff there too. Those bands have been around, but they really got the influence, impact, and influence, if I could say the word together, around that time frame. So, you cannot deny who Quorthon was, what he did, and how much he created in a very short time span. Like you said, it
Hmm.
died in 2004. There was a lot of rumors of health issues that he had for many years that may have led to the reasons why he never toured, and he never played out, because he probably
Yeah.
physically couldn't do that. And he, again, I think this is another factor too, and Ricky, you can dive in on this. He was such a musician and didn't care about being a superstar or a rock star so much, is that he completely changed Bathory's sound not that long after this
Oh
album
yeah.
comes out.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So when the debut album came out, he was still in very influenced into the genre he not created, because he didn't create black metal. I just want to get that out there. Venom were the originators of black metal. He helped develop it into what eventually we know now. Of course, after that you have the return, and then and then Under the Sign of the Black Mark, which is my personal favorite Pastor album. But once you pass those three albums, you begin to get into the Viking era of Bathory with Blood, Fire, Death,
Mhm,
Hammerheart, Twilight of the Gods, which those albums, even though they're not really core black metal, they're still Bathory albums
mhm,
because he's fascinated by the Scandinavian history and all that, and he wanted to bring that into his material. Yeah, there were some albums in the 90s that were misses, like Requiem and Octagon, but then in Blood and Ice, kind of influenced by power metal, and then kind of returning back sort of to the black metal, Destroyer Worlds, but then the Norland albums, two Viking metal masterpieces that show that how of an underrated lyricist, guitarist Quorthon was.
mhm. And you could probably lead that to he was focused so much on the music and writing the music and creating that he had the time and the energy to do that. Like I said, he never toured. Physically, probably couldn't do it. So what are you going to do? You have all this time and all this influence and all this energy. You are going to put it into your art. And he did that. And laid the groundwork for black metal, laid the groundwork for Viking metal, and was an influence on progressive and power and all the kind of extreme music we all love. This man definitely deserves to be in the conversation of any band that came out after 1984, for as being an influence on their music in this genre in the metal world. So yeah, the influence of Quorthon, of Bathory, is timeless. It's going to go on forever and ever, and we definitely recommend people check out the early stuff like you heard here with Hades on the Bathory album, but check out the later stuff. There's going to be highs and lows as there is with any artist out there, but your opinion's going to vary, and that's not a bad thing. You can enjoy the old stuff, you can enjoy the new stuff, and everything in between. That's what it's all about. There's plenty of information out there on YouTube. You can find documentary after documentary about black metal, about Quorthon, about the various averages of black metal. I recommend, of course, if you want a true, definitive black metal documentary, you check out Beelzebub's The Music of Satan, because it's goofy, it's funny, it's weird, wacky stuff. So that's the one I recommend you check out. It's going to be the most real black metal documentary you'll ever see, and doesn't harp on the gimmicks, if you will. It has a good time. Final thoughts on Bathory, Ricky?
Influential in extreme metal. Of course, this was during the time that Venom was big, Hellhammer, Celtic Frost was beginning to start. King Diamond was kind of around there still. Sarcophago were kind of becoming big. Mayhem was very starting, but in terms of when you mentioned black metal, Bastard is always at the top because they're one of, if not the best black metal band ever. And I meant saying black metal because later on we have Norwegian black metal, symphonic black metal, black and death metal, black metal in general.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So check out this album. Check out more about Bathory if you're a fan of the extreme music. And this has been a lot of fun. The last episode of Metal 40 Plus for 2024. More episodes will be coming in 2025. And I'm going to try to have Ricky back on here, have our boy Levi on here, and all the other metal friends that we can have on here to talk about these albums and their influence on us as they enter the realm of middle-aged. So I thank you all very much for joining us, my friends. And from Ricky and me, keep those horns high.
It's Mr. Scott. Yo, it's Mr. Scott. You know his ass is hot. Yo, it's Mr. Scott. It's Mr. Scott. Yo, it's Mr. Scott. You know his ass is hot. Yo, it's Mr. Scott. It's Mr. Scott. Let him hang.